Hello everyone and welcome back to the BackMarkers F1 Show channel. My name is Chris and I'm glad you could join me today. It's the return of the BackMarkers F1 Show Power Rankings. Now with the triple headers being over for the 2020 season, we're going to be returning with the BackMarkers F1 Show Power Rankings now that we have a little bit more time in between races to get this list out to you. Now just a quick reminder, if you guys are new to this series, we do go back ranking on the 5 previous races. So for today's episode, I'm going to be going back to ranking the races from the 70th anniversary Grand Prix, the Spanish Grand Prix, the Belgian Grand Prix, Italy, and then the final Tuscan Grand Prix, which just happened last weekend. Okay, so let's get right into the list today. As usual, we're going to go from number 10 all the way down to number 1. And in the 10th spot this week, we have Racing Point's Sergio Perez. Now, I rank Sergio at 10th because I think that considering all that he's been through this season, especially in the last 5 races, I thought that he's been driving really well. Since his return at the Spanish Grand Prix due to missing 2 races, he's had consistent points finishes and is now 9th in the driver's standings. He's had 2 P5s recently in the Tuscan Grand Prix and in the Spanish Grand Prix as well. So I really think that Perez has driven well, considering the fact that he's now lost his seat for 2021 and obviously the whole COVID test drama that made him miss 2 races. And his performances are going to be really key, as long with Lance Stroll's in securing Racing Point, possibly even 3rd in this year's Constructors' Championship. So I got Perez down in 10th place on our list. So moving on into number 9, we got the Spaniard, Carlos Sainz, coming in at 9th. Now, Carlos would have been a little bit higher, but he's had some pretty bad luck in the last couple of races. Obviously didn't start the Belgian Grand Prix due to an engine issue. But the reason why he still stays on the list is because obviously his podium in Monza was just brilliant. He almost won the race, was very close to winning that race as well. So I think that Carlos has been driving well this year, just had some bad luck go his way, but it still earns him a spot in our power rankings. Now moving on to the 8th spot, we got Mercedes' Valtteri Bottas, and it's been quite a rough season so far for Valtteri Bottas, and he started really high on our list when we go back to the Austrian Grand Prix, but since then he's kind of dropped off significantly, and when you look at his last 5 races, he's had 1 pole, 4 podiums, but no wins since the opening race of the season. Now, you might be asking, well, he's got a pole, he's got some podiums, why is he so down on our list? Considering the fact that he's got the best car underneath him, I think Bottas has been just a little bit disappointing this year, not being able to beat his teammate Lewis Hamilton. And after the 70th anniversary Grand Prix, he also lost the championship 2nd place to Max Verstappen. So he's since regained that, but I think that it's just been slightly disappointing performances from Valtteri. He missed up on the starts in a couple of races like at the Tuscan Grand Prix and just wasn't able to capitalize on his opportunities. So that's why Bottas drops down to 8th place on our list. All right, coming in at lucky number 7 is Lando Norris from McLaren. Now here's a driver that's been consistently in our top 10 rankings so far this season and will most likely stay there. He's been driving exceptionally well in 2020. But when you look at the last 5 races, he's had 4 straight points finishes. His high finishes coming P4 in Italy and P6 in Tuscany, and he's now 4th in the Drivers' Championship. So it's been a real solid run of form for Lando Norris, and it's keeping him high in our power rankings list, and I'm sure that he's going to be moving up as the races to come. But he's really integral to trying to secure that 3rd or 4th place in the Constructors' Championship to McLaren, and he's made significant steps to close the gap to Carlos Sainz and actually be better than Carlos Sainz in some of the previous 5 races. So that puts Lando Norris in 7th on our list. Moving on to number 6 is a good friend of Lando's. It's Alex Albon from Red Bull. Now, when I look back at the last 5 races, it was a very close decision as to who I was going to rank higher between Lando Norris and Alex Albon. Albon did have the better finishes more consistently than Lando Norris in the last 5 races, which is why he ranks just a little bit higher. And of course, the big result coming at last race in the Tuscan Grand Prix, where he scored his first career podium. And I think that Albon has made some pretty good steps. He was really good in that race, decisive overtakes, and really handling the pressure well after Max Verstappen went out of the race and carrying the load for Red Bull. So let's hope that that was a turning point for Albon and for Red Bull as well, and he can really kind of start to gain back his confidence and really start to make an impact in the championship. As we head into the Russian Grand Prix, Alex Albon's only 2 points back of Lando Norris for 4th in the Drivers' Championship. So I think considering all the struggles and turmoil that Albon has faced this season, it's a pretty good spot to be in. And at the end of the season, if Albon can secure the 4th in the championship, I think that'll be a pretty solid year for Red Bull and for Albon as well. All right, as we climb higher into the list, we're now into the top 5. So let's look at who has made the top 5 this week. Coming in at the 5th spot is Lance Stroll from Racing Point, Canada's very own. Now, Stroll has had a really strong run of form this season, but also in the last 5 races. When we look at some of his best finishes, he's got a P4 in Spain, and obviously you can't look over the podium in Italy, which really kind of flew under the radar, obviously with Gasly picking up his first win and Carlos Sainz as well. But that was a really solid podium, his second career podium again, and Stroll was within another chance of a podium at the Tuscan Grand Prix. Unfortunately, it didn't end up happening with the failure that he had to his tire, but regardless was running in another good position. In addition, he's had another 2 points finishes in Silverstone at the 70th anniversary Grand Prix, and then coming in Belgium as well. So he's been really, really consistent this year, getting into Q3 regularly, which is really good. So it's put Lance Stroll in a good position. Because of his DNF, he's fallen back to 6th in the Drivers' Championship, but heading into the Tuscan Grand Prix, he was 4th. So Stroll's performance has kind of flown under the radar a little bit this season, but he's been a very impressive driver. Obviously, Racing Point has had one of the better cars this season on the grid, but I think Stroll's within a shot at possibly securing a top 4 or top 5 championship position for the first time in his career. So that's why it puts Lance Stroll 5th on our list this week. Coming in at number 4, it's possibly the driver of the year. That's AlphaTauri's Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly has had an incredible run of form this season, not just going back to the last 5 races, but from the start of the season, he's been really impressive. But obviously, one of the big highlights that shoots him up into our list in 4th is, of course, his win in Monza. It was a spectacular performance that was. Even a couple weeks later now, it's still really, really impressive and still something that we're always talking about. So Gasly has done really well to get himself inside the top 10 of the Drivers' Championship when he was on the outside looking in before the Italian Grand Prix. And he's also had 2 other points finishes coming in Spain and in Belgium. And if you remember back to Belgium, he was most likely going to be on for a top 5 finish until the safety car came out. So I think Gasly's been absolutely incredible this year. Top 4 in our list this weekend, and also top 10 in the Drivers' Championship. So that's Pierre Gasly, 4th on our Power Rankings list. Moving into the podium places on the BackMarkers F1 Show Power Rankings, coming in at number 3 is Max Verstappen. And now Max Verstappen has been toe-to-toe with Lewis Hamilton in our list this year for the battle for 1, but he's dropped back just 1 place, and the reason for that really is because of his DNFs. Now, some of those DNFs obviously weren't his fault. If you look at the Tuscan Grand Prix, he had some sort of an engine issue that bogged him down at the start, and then he got hit from behind. And then also when you look at the Italian Grand Prix as well, another mechanical issue that forced him out of the race. But he's still high on our list because within the last 5 races, he did win the 70th anniversary Grand Prix race, which was an exceptional performance. If you guys remember that, it feels like ages ago now. But he also bumped himself up to 2nd in the Drivers' Championship, which, considering how dominant Mercedes has been this year and how good their car is, that was quite a feat. And it was pretty disappointing for Valtteri, which is why he was so far down on our list. But that's why Verstappen was so highly rated in our power rankings, was because of his ability to still get 2nd in the championship, and that's still up for grabs. But those 2 DNFs are really what bumps him down on our list, and hopefully they'll be able to figure out those reliability problems because we really do need Verstappen fighting at the front in the championship. But so far, still in our top 3 of our rankings. So then who overtakes him as number 2 in our list? Well, it's his former teammate, Daniel Ricciardo from Renault. Now, Ricciardo has put in some really good drives as of late in the last 5 races. He had a P4 in Belgium, also with the fastest lap of the race. It helped Renault secure their largest points finish ever in the history of Formula 1. And that form continued on really well in Tuscany as well when he finished P4 as well and was running in a podium position. Can't forget about his excellent restart, passing Valtteri Bottas for 2nd place as well going into turn 1. So he's had a really, really good run of form, and he's impressed me a lot in that Renault, and he's kind of shut down the whole Esteban Ocon hype train this season with how well he's performed, kind of showing everybody the quality of driver that he still is, even though the car isn't up to par. And not just those results as well, but he also had a P6 in Italy, which again, quite disappointing for Renault because they could have been in with another podium when you look at the likes of AlphaTauri and McLaren capitalizing on that crazy race. But still, another good handful of points for Ricciardo, and it has put him 7th in the championship. So that fight for the best of the rest and 4th in the championship, it's very close between the likes of McLaren, Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo at Renault, Lance Stroll at Racing Point. So if Renault can really continue this good run of form with Daniel Ricciardo at the helm, pushing that team forward, Ricciardo could be in a shot to finish maybe even 5th or 4th in the championship. So been really impressed with Danny Rick's form as of late, and it puts him 2nd in our list. So of course, at number 1, I'm sure you guys have guessed it, it is the championship leader, Lewis Hamilton at number 1. And quite frankly, I don't think that he's going to be moving very much from this list. And I know it's kind of a bit anticlimactic to put the championship leader as number 1 in the list. But really, when you look at the last 5 races, and you can look at this entire season as well, he's been nothing short of absolutely dominant and really hasn't put a foot wrong other than the penalty that he received in Monza, which You can argue it wasn't really his fault. It was a miscommunication between him and the team. But even without that penalty in Monza, when you look at his last 5 races, 3 wins, a podium, 4 poles, and extending his championship lead over his closest rivals, Bottas and Verstappen. So Hamilton has just driven incredibly well. And when you look at his pole position in Tuscany, that being a brand new race, his teammate Valtteri Bottas, he has gotten close in qualifying. Hamilton has just had the extra gear, 4 straight poles over his teammate now in the last 5 races, and he's really, really creating himself a nice cushion and a gap. 1 win away from Michael Schumacher's all-time record of 91 wins, which he's most likely to eclipse in the next couple of races. So it's really hard to argue somebody else than Lewis Hamilton to put at the number 1 spot in our power rankings. But let's see what happens in the next couple of races. That might change. But for now, it's Lewis Hamilton atop the BackMarkers F1 Show power rankings post Tuscan Grand Prix. All right, guys, so that'll do it for this edition of the BackMarkers F1 Show power rankings. If you like what you see in this video, consider giving us a like and hit that subscribe button. And also, jump down in the comments below. Let me know what you think of this list and whether you agree with us. And also comment your own top 10 list going back in the 5 races that we just had. I look forward to hearing from you guys, and we always try and reply and answer as many comments as we get. So we really appreciate everybody chiming in on our channel. Check us out on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We also have our own website, www.tbmf1show.com, for some extra content that you can check out there. We'll be back next week looking ahead for the Russian Grand Prix, but until then, it's bye for now.